Hey guys, come over the series premiere of the new Netflix show Girlboss. This is season 1, episode 1, Sophia, and let me just tell you guys that most of these Netflix shows that I do talk to you guys about, I do try to get at least a little bit of information going into, just so I have an idea of what I'm really getting myself into. Even with 13 Reasons Why, while I didn't watch a trailer, I still knew kind of what it was gonna be, just from reviews and plot synopsises here and there. This show, however, nothing. Honestly, I knew absolutely nothing going into this. All I knew about Girlboss that is star Britt Robertson, and that was literally it. I knew nothing else going into the show. I didn't watch a trailer. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go into this as blind as possible, not really knowing what I got myself into, and I was quite surprised. I mean, not a lot of people have really been talking about this show, and after watching it, I can kind of see why, because, well, it's not very good. I mean, I'll be the first to say it. This show really is not that great. I was not that impressed by this first episode, and I'll talk about why I think this first episode wasn't really that great, and why, and how I do think the show is going to get better. Don't get me wrong, I don't think this was a terrible pilot by any means. I just feel in terms of, start, this was definitely not the best way to start the show. I was not really that into what was going on. Well, let's get to the plot of Girlboss, which basically the show takes place in I believe it's 2006, 2007, something like that. But basically, there was this girl, Sophia Amoruso, and she wrote this book about like the rise of her basically, she was just, she's this normal girl. She's kind of a fuck up. She can't get a job. She, loses her job. She loses her apartment. She loses her car. She's losing just everything. But luckily there is this fashion empire that comes along. She goes to like this thrift shop, and it gives her this idea to possibly start pursuing a fashion career, and she starts taking like selfies of herself and vlogging in these certain items from this thrift shop, and basically she kind of wants to start her own empire, and that basically is the plot of Girlboss overall. But let's get into the show, starting off with the cast. And that was really the thing that did have me on board with this premiere, is that the cast here, I didn't really know anyone except for our main lead, but Britt Robertson, I really do like her. She's never really done anything I don't like her in. She's just one of those actresses that's so charming and so fun and just immediately puts a smile on my face. So I'm not gonna lie, when I first started watching this, I immediately had a smile on my face because she's just a lot of fun to watch. She's very entertaining. However, as good as Britt Robertson did try, because I will definitely give her credit for trying in this role, unfortunately, the character she's playing is very vastly unlikable. And after that first scene, when we have, Sophia, her car breaks down, she literally has to push the car herself. After that, she just becomes kind of unbearable. This character, I really was not a fan of. I honestly really did not like her, and she really is the worst kind of main character. The problem is not that Britt Robertson's bad in the role. Again, she's definitely trying a lot, and she's trying to make this her own. The problem is this character we've seen way too many times before, that down on her luck, type of 20-something-year-old who can't get, who can't stay on a job, who can't afford a house, who is just losing everything, kind of just a fuck up in life. They don't really have much of a direction, and, they find this one thing that's really going to help them. They're kind of sardonic, they're kind of rude, they don't really want any, like, actual relationships, and again, I mean, that might be who Sophia, who this girl actually was in real life, which is fine. I really have no problem with that. I mean, credit for them for being accurate if this is actually how Sophia Amoruso was, but it doesn't really make for the most compelling character. And the problem is, besides that, there's really not much to work with here. She's just kind of a directionless 20-something-year-old who's really just trying to get her life together. And I mean, it just doesn't really separate her from other characters I've seen. I've seen so many characters like this before. There's really nothing here that I can say, oh, that's new, or that's a unique take on it. It all just felt very, very familiar, and unfortunately, it just didn't really make for the most compelling of characters. And maybe she has potential to get better. I definitely think this character does have the potential to get better, because I think she is going to go through a bit of a character arc. It's just right now, she's quite unlikable. She's really just very uninteresting, and as the episode went on, I got more and more uninterested in her. And again, Britt Robertson definitely tries in the role. She got a few chuckles out of me because she is definitely fun to watch, but even she can't hold a role this uninteresting, this bland, and overall just this unapproachable. I mean, this is one of those characters where if you were to meet this character in real life, I always think about this when I talk about TV characters. If I was to meet this character in real life, how would I act? I would probably avoid this character because she really is not that likable. I really was not a fan of her. She even talks about she doesn't believe in one-night stands and things like that, but yet she kind of has a one-night stand with this guy. Just her character in general, I really was not a fan of, and she, when her character's not great, the whole show kind of crumbles down because of that. And honestly, besides Britt Robertson, when it comes to the rest of the cast, I really couldn't tell you much about them because we didn't nearly spend enough time with these characters. And they tried. I mean, there was her best friend who's kind of flirty and sexual, and I'm sure we're going to get more with her in the next few episodes. There was that guy that she had sex with, but there really wasn't much to these characters besides that. They just kind of felt like they were there just to have a supporting cast. I like Jim Rash. I've always liked him since the Community days. But again, he just didn't really have much to do here. He was in one scene, he was talking to her about the fashion empire. I know RuPaul's in this as well. So again, maybe there are things that can make the show better. Just right now, I really can't tell you much about the supporting cast, which I wish I could say the show does have a strong enough supporting cast. But again, the supporting cast really wasn't that great. So again, I can't really say much about them, honestly. So now let's get to the directing and the writing, because that is my main problem with the show, is the directing. I think the directing really was the main problem, because the show starts off and it's this really fun comedy. She gets in this really funny situation where her car breaks down, she really has to push her car, and there's some really good comedy out of that scene. That scene I actually found to be very funny, and for me was the funniest scene in the episode. I was laughing quite a lot during then, but everything after that first scene kind of detracted, because from then, sure, maybe there was a chuckle here or there, but the show really did not do a good job in making me laugh a lot. I did not really find the show particularly funny. A lot of jokes went over my head, and maybe it's because I'm not involved with the fashion empire, but that's really not an excuse. I mean, great shows should get you on board with that kind of thing. *Halt and Catch Fire*, for example, I don't know shit about how the computer business works and how malware works and things like that, or antivirus software. I can't tell you shit about any of that stuff, but because of how well that show presents itself, it does make me able, because of how great its characters are, by doing that, makes me able to relate to them and get on board with what they're doing, and makes me interested in what they're talking about. Here, I just got more increasingly uninterested because there just wasn't enough to latch me onto this story. I didn't care a lot about the fashion empire. I didn't really care much about what she was pursuing, because again, it just felt very familiar to me, and I felt like I knew everywhere it was going to go. And I will say, the one thing that worked the one thing that I think, so yeah, like I said, the comedy really didn't work, but even worse was the drama. The drama for me, yes, it's going to be in here, but this first episode, it felt very forced. It felt like, oh, now we're trying to get you to feel bad for this character after all the shitty things she said, but look at her losing her house, oh, isn't that so sad, and look at her, oh, she lost her job, oh, look at all this stuff. Like, it was trying to make you feel bad for her, and it was forcing it down her throats. It felt less natural, and felt more like, oh, look at her in pain, and I didn't care. Like, fine, she's in pain. I don't care, honestly. She kind of deserved it. She was kind of a shitty human being in this first episode, but other than that, like, they just didn't really do a good job with the dramatic stuff. And again, sure, I've watched many shows where you have unlikable type characters. Hell, one of my favorite shows is Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I wouldn't exactly say Rebecca Bunch is likable, but there's enough going on with her character that makes her interesting, that outweighs a lot of the, terrible stuff she does, because she does do a lot of crazy stuff in that show. Sophia doesn't really have anything under the surface besides her just being directionless. There's not really much else to her right now, and I don't know if that's going to change as the show goes on, but right now there just really isn't much interesting to her, and that's really the main problem with the show. And the writing as well, the way this was constructed, I thought was really badly conceived. I mean, you saw her, she had sex with this guy, you think, okay, maybe he's going to be a big part of the show. That quickly goes away. They don't show her friends again. She goes away from them. She goes to her job where she was late. The second she was late, I'm like, oh, she's going to get fired. There's no way that she's going to stay. And lo and behold, she did in fact get fired. And, then she gets evicted from her apartment. She had the conversation with her dad, which probably was my favorite scene, with her just telling her dad, I don't know what I really want. I thought that was a good scene overall, but it just wasn't that interesting of a story. And yes, maybe that is actually how it happened. Again, props to them for accuracy. It just doesn't really make for compelling TV or even entertaining TV. This is not really an entertaining show. It's not really something I could put on and be like, oh, that's really fun. This is more of a show you put on maybe in the background and maybe you watch every few seconds. It's not really something that I found myself to be very entertained by. And again, it's not because I'm not the target audience. I think a show should work better if it should work harder if you're not the target audience. Again, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I wouldn't exactly say I'm the target audience for that show, but because of how great that show works at what it does, that show gets me on board because I understand, that show helps me like it more. It's very fun. It knows how to cater to all audiences, and this show just doesn't know how to do that. It seems like it's very close-minded, like it's only trying to cater to a certain audience, those being like fashion and enthusiasts or fashion obsessed people. If you're obsessed with fashion, by all means check out the show. You're probably gonna love it. I'm just not, and unfortunately the show didn't really find a way to cater to someone who's not into that kind of thing. I liked some things here. Like I said, I do think the show does have some sort of potential. If the show maybe focuses a bit more on her obsession with fashion and gives us more look into her character, maybe it is going to get interesting. But overall, this first episode just really did not impress me. It was also way too long. Like, I really felt the length. I usually don't feel 30 minutes, but this episode I really did feel the length throughout it. It was very choppy. I feel like the editing some scenes went on way too long, particularly the scene where she was looking at all those clothes. That went on way too long. I really was not into that scene. But overall, guys, this was really not that great of a first episode, and I am going to give the first episode of Girlboss Season 1, Episode 1, Sophia, a 2.5 out of 5 or a C. So overall, guys, that's it for my review of the pilot of Girlboss. Now, I am going to continue to watch this show, but I am in no hurry to finish it. There are just other shows that I'd rather binge right now. 13 Reasons Why, The White Queen, I'm trying to binge that, so I can get caught up to The White Princess. There are just other things that I'd rather be watching right now, so don't expect me to review this show a ton. I'm probably going to watch the second episode today, because that's just usually what I do. I usually watch the first one, then I watch the second one. But again, I'm really in no hurry to finish this show right now. But let me know what you guys thought of the show. Loved your thoughts, and it really haven't heard too many people talk about it, so I'm probably in like the minority for the reviews, because I really could not find many reviews on YouTube or many reviews anywhere really. There's like 15 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, which the score on that is terrible, but even that doesn't have too many reviews, so that really does tell you a lot. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys in my next video, which I think will be for the originals. Yeah, I will be for the originals, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.